Hello, welcome back. It's not my hair, it's a silly hat. The weather's warmed up a little and it's time to get back onto Bob, who's hiding patiently in the corner of the workshop here for these other two cars, these other two projects to get out of the way. But I decided today is a Bob day. Anyway, if you like this kind of stuff, give me a cold hands thumbs up. If you don't, you can't turn it off, do that. If you want to comment down below, there is a way of doing that on your telly as well, see if you can work it out. Subscribe, helps those algorithms, oh yes. And if you want to contact me, Church House Classics, it's all one word, at gmail.com. If you fancy supporting the channel in any way, because I've helped you, or you just fancy supporting me or buying me a pint, then there's a PayPal me thing scrolling along down here. All grateful, all donations are gratefully received, and I do thank everyone personally. Thank you. Anyway, enjoy the video. So I've got myself into a bit of a situation here with so many bloody cars in the workshop that are projects are dragging on, but I mean, Haggis is coming on really quite nicely. Seats done, need to put the interior back in, got to sort the boot floor out. Engine's 99%. Okay, I've just thrown a few boxes on there, the bits that I need to put on later on. His bonnet is up here, resting on the roof, on Haggis's carpets. So sorry about all this. Yes, paint job on is nice though, isn't it? Steve did that, Steve the body. And the inside has become a bit of a dumping ground. So we're going to sort all this situation out because this is not acceptable. When I was last episode of Bob that you saw, I was kind of just lining everything up because I wasn't entirely sure that the thing was going to kind of bolt together. So you can see here, I've just pop riveted the inner wings onto the back of the B-post. I've screwed the B-post onto the sill on this side. It is welded on the other side. But I was in a bit of a rush, really, to get this thing into one piece and back up here. As you can see, the goalpost fits nicely, and the roof fits beautifully. It just dropped, it went straight on, millimetre perfect, so I'm really delighted about it. This issue down here that I did mention is about the 4 or 5 mil gap. That's going to be largely down to the mounting points for the cross member, so I'm going to fix that. If I don't fix that, the problem is that the hinges will be too far forwards for the bottom tailgate to close properly. Wheelbase, bang on 100 inches, with no issues there. The problem I've really got is because of the proximity of the nice paintwork on Haggis, I really can't be doing grinding and welding down here. So today, basically what I need to do is that transmission tunnel is going to come out, that gearbox is going to come out, because I only put it in there really just to transport it up here. I've got a LT77 gearbox that's going to go in, 5-speed gearbox with a Borg-Warner transfer box, coming from a low mileage car. I'm undecided yet on these, oh sorry, we're clamped down. Mind my heater. 1 second. I think I probably mentioned in a previous video, I'm undecided on these inner wings. I might end up just going for a complete set of DDS wings. Because by the time I fix these up, it's cheaper to have put the DDS wings on. We'll see. Jury's out at the moment, but you can see these need a fair amount of work. They're not going to go in the bin, I'll use them, but just not maybe on this. You can see there's a fair amount of crap, road crap. The chassis needs washing off. It's not rust, it's just road dirt. But once I've got the body frame welded up on this, then it'll be off to Mr. Spray Blast, who will grip blast it back to bare steel and paint it with a nice acrylic 2-pack paint for me. Get rid of all of this crap around here. Then I can start thinking about a top coat. Not that far away. Anyway, today, we're digressing. Today, we're going to look at the driver's door. So I need to strip this driver's door right down. The skin's going to come off it. I don't think the skin is any use whatsoever. So the skin's going to come off. I'll show you how to get that off. In fact, what I'll try and do, because the skin's no good anyway, I'll see if I can get the skin off intact. But then I want to look at the frame and find out what's going on with the frame and work out really what the issues are around this thing. But as you can see, there's not a lot of rust on this door frame at all. Bit of a shame it's got a whacking great dent at the leading edge just underneath the bottom hinge. Because I'll tell you what, it's about one of the nicest driver's doors I've seen. I'll clean it all up on the bottom here, but it is in good shape. It's a shame the skin got belted as well. Passenger door is much the same. It's actually on the car at the moment. I popped it on to bring it up. But the passenger door is in really good shape as well, and I will almost certainly reuse that one. That transmission tunnel is not going to be used for this project. I've got a transmission tunnel cover that came for the LT77. It just saves me butchering an LT95 transmission tunnel cover. I've got another cover that will go straight on it. Right, so let's get this up on the bench. So skin's off. My method really of just trying to prise back the edges wasn't entirely successful. I mean, along the bottom edge it's particularly corroded, but the stuff is so very fragile. This Burma Bright, that's even just trying to ease it back really gently just ends up damaging the outer skin. You can see where along the bottom edge wasn't too bad, a little bit here and there. That edge wasn't connected at all. You can see up here the damage. So I don't think that's going to be a goer moving forwards. I might try and heat the Burma Bright, but this stuff melts very, very, very easily. I might clean that up actually. That'd make quite a good wall fitting, wouldn't it? There you go. Right, door itself. Like the shutting edge, the inside is all in really good order. You can see there's largely a lack of paint in here. It's more of a token effort than anything else. Obviously the body colour has managed to make it all the way down to the bottom edge as well. There's a couple of localised holes here, nothing really dramatic. Here though, where it's had a collision of some sort, you can see it's bent the brace, which I'll be able to straighten out. It's even bent the bloody hinge. I can't get these hinges off, but I want to save these check strap bits at the bottom. So I'm going to, and this one's got an absolute pile of shims behind it, so I want to save those as well. So I'm going to have to get busy with the angle grinder. That's just a plate that someone's welded over the outside, not the best. And then because they'd stuck lumps of metal on the inside, the panel have rotted out behind it, which is a shame, because they don't often rot along this edge here. Let me just turn them over. They don't often, come on, door, behave yourself, working one-handed as usual. They don't often rot along this edge. So I think I've got another door which I ended up scrapping because the front and back edges were so absolutely atrocious. And I've probably got this piece, I'll be able to splice in. Right, bit of archaeology for you. Anyone know who that is? Lou? 6? Don't know. Nice when you get a bit of crayon on the inside of these things. Don't know what it means. Someone let me know. Bit of Lode Lane archaeology. They've cut a big brace out of here as well. There should be a brace that goes like that one. There, so that's been cut out. It needs to be replaced. I will replace it. But the rest of this door, I mean, I know it looks terrible, but I tell you what, it ain't a bad one. I'm going to get these hinges off, get the repair off, get it back to where it was at factory and see if I can straighten the door out. You can see there's a big old bend there. There's a bend and twist there. Might be able to straighten it out. Don't know. Hinge edge. Right, okay, look at the catch edge first of all. So you can see I've been along the bottom here, cleaned back with the wire brush, so I've cleared some of the damage up at this end. It's not complete yet, but it's not far off it. All of this is good, all of this is good. You can start to understand why I say this door's a good one, although there's some obvious flaws. Now, let me just position you upright. So this is the catch edge. Inevitable bit of rust around the top here, and they always split there. But other than that, have you ever seen one this clean? There's no bubbles on it anywhere. That's just obviously where a bung had gone round it and water got trapped in there. All this edge. Beautiful, isn't it? I don't use this door for one reason or another, and I'm having that edge off there as a template. all the way down the bottom flange for now. We've got some challenges, but we haven't got anything particularly serious. I'll go around and mark everything I've got with a pen. So there's obvious bits like that. That was all full of filler. And it's on the edge of the bracket for the window mount, if I remember rightly. Yes, it is. Fairly easy to repair that. And that. And then the next bit really is over here by the drain hole. Okay, so that's the whole of the bottom edge is solid apart from that chunk, and that chunk, which is refreshing. Then on the hinge edge, you can see where I started to try and get it straight again. So I'm working on this edge being straight, because I know it should be. So you can see there it's just a tiny bit too low. But I knew that was in the right position. Just slowly easing it back. You can see the dent's gone from here now. That was obviously the main crease across there. I'm no panel beater, by the way, before you guys start getting all upset and aggravated with me. By straightening that out, it straightened this out, okay, which was all bent before, because this whole end was twisted in like that. On the inside, the reinforcing piece, I've left it attached for now because I want to basically be able to get it back into roughly the right sort of shape. Now, what we're looking at here, this rusty steel here, that's actually the inner shell of the door. And the blue bits you can see are the outer shell of the door, and it's quite a common rust point really, is for this bit to rot out. And this is largely because I don't believe Land Rover painted these at the factory. Once it was assembled, they painted it. So if we were to go down this gap here, where we've got the spot welded outer skin on still, peel that back, you'll find there's bare metal underneath. Can we see underneath there? No, because that's already rusted, because that wasn't actually attached. And the same along here. So where this strip is here, which is just a reinforcing strip to stop the drumming, where that goes along the whole of the inside of the door, and some gibbons cut a big hole in it, all of that would have been attached to the shell, but not actually rust treated. Now that said, I think this one is a goer. I think we can actually do something with this. It's just all bitumen. It's been in there. I suspect that piece rotted out down there. This is one of the rot areas. That rotted out probably because the door was tilted backwards and water pooled in this area. That's not bad actually. I'm quite pleased with that. That's not bad for a couple of hours work to get it stripped and roughly in the right sort of shape. What I'm going to need to do next is cut out, I've got some templates in Devon, I need to go down to Devon probably next week, cut out the templates that I've got from steel, and then start working on the outer shell where it basically goes over this inner shell. I'm going to really attack this inner shell and see, because you can see it's quite heavily pitted along the edges there, but on the inside there's not a mark on it. There's a hole there. Gone from the outside to the inside, isn't it? There's another hole there. Is that a hole? Yeah. There's a couple of holes on it, so we might end up drilling the spot welds here and here, and here and here, and then cutting this piece out and because it's only a piece of bloody great big angle. Yeah. Okay, it's sculpted. There's a bit of a curve on here, but it's not a difficult piece to replicate in order to replace this whole reinforcing piece on the end of the door. It will be a shame to replace the whole thing, because I think actually on the whole it's actually not too bad. And then what I'll do is I will get it, the whole thing, before the skin goes back onto it, it will be blasted, painted inside and out. There's not a huge amount of we have to do about that end. There's no way am I unpicking this end to unpick the shell from this section, because it just hasn't rotted. So I'm assuming if it hasn't rotted this far, it ain't going to rot. But generally they kind of rot all the way up here around the door handle catches, and it hasn't, which is why. And I don't believe the passenger door had either. Right, I'm going to get on with beating this thing into the right shape. Kettle's just boiled. Have myself a coffee, and yeah, carry on with this door. The damaged hinge, the hinge that was absolutely massacred, look at the curvature on that, the bolts actually undid. And I managed to salvage all of these shims. Look at that lot. Nice that, isn't it? Big old pile of them. So salvage that lot. That's always useful. The other hinge, however, wasn't going to let go and actually broke two, not one, but two Allen adapters, Allen key adapters, and it just wasn't going to let go. So the trick with that is to take it out to the scrap pile, because I got busy out here with the angle grinder. Where's it gone? Throw it down here. Basically, you just cut. That's obviously the piece of steel that you cut through the edge of the steel until you slice through the neck of the bolt. And that's the only way I can get this thing off. Slice the neck of the thing off, then slice through each of the bolts. There we are. That's the easiest way to get them off. It's pain-free, obviously. You take the usual protection, etc., etc., wear a condom, etc., etc., etc. But it does come off in your hand. I'm not going to do anything with this until I've got the panel that I've got in Devon. Like I say, I'm going down there next week. Right, so as you've seen, working on Bob at the moment is a bit of a challenge because of the proximity of other vehicles. So I'm working my balls off, trying to get other vehicles out of the way so they're mobile at least, so I can move them out of the way so I can actually get on with Bob, which is the kind of supposed to be my primary target. But Haggis is dragging on a little bit, and Stag is dragging on a little bit, and I don't mind that. I really don't. And I'm very, very kind of open with the customers about, you know, kind of extra work that does need to be done or I think needs to be done. And we're moving ahead with those two projects. But in this one, we're talking about Bob. Now, where are we with Bob? So there are some challenges. And the challenge I've got at the moment is I've got engines in Fareham, I've got a gearbox in North Yorkshire, and I've got all of the kind of the body panels and the steel and everything is in North Devon. And I'm in High Wycombe, which is northwest of London. So the nearest component at the moment is the engine, which is down in Fareham, which is just over 100 miles away. And we're in the middle of a bloody lockdown. Sorry about that, folks. I don't mean to make light of the bloody lockdown, but, you know, unfortunately, if you don't laugh at the damn thing, you cry at the damn thing. So let's laugh at the bloody lockdown. I can't wait to get back up the puddle again. I really can't. So this week, I was hoping to get a little bit more done on Bob, but as you've seen, I've torn the driver's door apart, and really, I've got it tracked where it wants to be. So all the edges that should be straight are straight. Right, let me just change the angle, the viewing angle. One of the other challenges I've got, aside from a workshop full of cars, is that parts supply is doing my bloody head in. Not just on this project, but on the other projects as well. I have, you know, I know I say I don't read the press, and I don't read the press in all honesty, but I do glance at my phone for about 12 seconds and do gather information. And there has been a couple of stories on BBC, bless them, so impartial, about the rising cost of container shipments from China. Yeah. Honestly, and people whinging about it, and can't get the supply chain into the UK. So, I mean, I must admit, I do try and use UK manufactured or UK supply chain where I possibly can on any of my projects. It is a bit grainy, you know, it's what it is. I want to get, really, once this sill is welded on here, I'll get it roughly tacked into place. I want to get the bulkhead out. That's fairly straightforward to do that with the side frames in place. Because I can then work on the bulkhead and clean all the welds up and get it down to spray blast for them to clean it all back and me to give it a top coat. So the bulkhead is then kind of finished. There's nothing more I need to do with it. That's going to be a significant step forwards. Then each of the side frames, weld the side frame to it. I need to make up this kind of angled channel section, more or less exactly the same as that one there. So it's an up, across and up to that exact dimension, and that if I move the old driver's door skid, which is going to be my new notice board, I think, and that just then will just spot weld along the top here, drill the holes through it, because then the window rubber, pardon me, sits on the top of it, and the outer wing screws through the outside of it. That will be then this bit done. As far as the fuel filler is concerned, famous for, it's just not worth me pissing around trying to roll one out myself when they sell them for less than the labour it takes me to make one. So I'll just do that. Hats off to Famous for a lot of the reproduction stuff that they're doing at the moment for these early Range Rovers. Things like that. There is no repair panel for it. I just make up a closing piece that goes down to the sill. The splash panel I've got is in Devon. Like so many other things, it's in Devon. I'm actually going to make a trip down to Devon next weekend. So the first full weekend in February, I'm going down to Devon. I've got to, really, because I've got so much stuff down there. I want to prepare the container to ship up here, because pretty much everything now is happening out of this workshop, and I need all of the crap that's in Devon here. It is holding me up. And like I say, I've got engines in Fairham I need to go and pick up. I'm going to have a chat with Tim about seeing if he can pallet the gearbox up for me and ship it down, because the original idea, I don't know if it's common knowledge or not, but Tim is looking to relocate down to Devon, not far from where my dad is, at some point, and the idea was that he was going to bring the gearbox down at some point, and then I was going to lift it into the back of my car and then bring it back here. A bit of a kind of dog leg journey to bring a gearbox from North Yorkshire to High Wycombe, but you know, taking it via North Devon didn't seem too bad an idea. The boot floor needs to come out. At the moment it's just in there for alignment purposes. Oh, the reason I wanted DDS is because I wanted the cross members that go across, because I want all of those in place to confirm that I know I've got the right distance between, but I want to make sure I've got the right height from the chassis. And it's just baselining and getting everything absolutely spot on. The frame on the other side of the car is actually very, very, very close to being able to just take off the car and take down to spray blast for them to clean back and tidy up. The A and B posts are welded on. I need to, because on that side it's very much like it is on this side, where I pot riveted the panel into place just for shipping it. Interestingly, the one on that side fits worse than the one on this side. And it's nothing to do with the 4mm. It's just I don't know, whatever it is. I've got it tight at the back end because obviously we don't want any water ingress. So you can see over there. Can you see over there? You probably can see over there actually. That the tail end of the inner wing is butted right up against the inside of the goalpost, so that's important. Now once it's been painted, I will go berserk with a seam seal around all of these gaps around the bottom here, make sure it's all properly kind of sealed in. So really, the other thing I do need to do on the side frames is splice in this missing section up here. So if you look up here, that gap from there to there is what was cut off the car. So this is the original top rail, the original inner depot section with its original kind of rear wing. So I bolted that all up to the goalpost, up to the inner wings, up to the chassis, and then kind of put the roof on. And the worst I've got is 4mm down there. That's not bad, is it? On something, like I say, where the panel gaps are measured by how much of a Christmas ham you can wedge into it. I am going to get new front inner wings for this. I'll reuse these on one of the other projects, but I think this car deserves a little bit better than shonky inner wings. I think the money we're saving on engines and gearbox rebuilds, I can justify that with the customer, I'm fairly sure. What else? That's pretty much about it at the moment. So it's kind of, at the moment, while it seems like this bugger all happened with it, there has actually been quite a significant amount of work going on in the background. It's like seeing the Swan gliding gracefully down the river. Well, underneath, where the engines are working, the old big old flippers on the end of its little legs, skinny little legs, they're providing that forward motion. So there's been quite a lot, like, as I say, quite a lot of organising going on in the background around just really logistically making sure I'm in the right place at the right time to pick up all the bits. I have got a gearbox cover. Let me go and show you the gearbox cover, because that came in. Where's my bloody torch gone? You've just actually caught me at the tail end of the stag handbrake video. You have to watch that on another thing. Right, let's go. And stag should be collected. We're aiming for stag to be collected next week. Right, so Lighty McLightface. Now that you can see very, very, very similar to the LT95 transmission cover, except for it's got a much bigger hole here. Now there is a box that goes over the top of that. I've got the boxes as well. They're down here somewhere, in amongst all this stuff that's very carefully stacked up at the back of the container. So I'm going to use that. Now this cover itself, is actually in pretty good shape. It's a bit bent here and there, but it's I mean, it's a big twist on the panel there, you can see that. But the rest of it is actually fairly solid. So I'll give it a damn good clean up, send it over to Spray Blast. They can do their wizardry with it. And that will go straight in. Again, another time and cost saving where I don't have to restore the panel. The other thing I did get, where is it? Left-hand drive, right-hand drive, sorry. Glove box and under dash panel. Right here, what we've got here is a Defender LT77 gearbox extension. So the idea is, on an LT77 gearbox, they're normally short stick, and the gear stick comes up pretty much where the automatic lever comes up on my car. Like that. So rather than being a long stick with the gear stick coming up over here, it comes up here, which is great if you want a short stick. However, let's move back inside again, so it's a bit less noisy. On a Defender, the short stick position would actually bring the gear stick up underneath the centre seat, which is bugger all use really, isn't it? So this adapter has been manufactured. Now this is for a non-BW gearbox, and I know that because it's got the stupid bloody adjustment mechanism. This is how you adjust diff lock. It's horrible. That's for the high-low, that's for the diff lock. I'm going to need to change that. I need to adapt that, but I should be able to do that. The gear stick rod mechanism goes on there, and the gear stick comes out there, further forwards. So it's going to be a foot further forwards than it would be normally. And I think that might just work. Now, the only issue I'm going to have is with that on top of the gearbox, I don't know how far through the top of the transmission tunnel that's going to come. I know the customer wants the flat floor in between the seats. When I look at the work I did on Southpaw, I was able to put a blank sheet of metal over that, and the gearbox sat underneath it. Sorry, the gear stick sat underneath it. Now, whether that will work with this or not, I don't know. Until I get the gearbox, I'm not going to be able to tell. So again, another piece of logistical challenging. There's the covers there. Two covers. Hiding behind a Stag radiator and a rebuilt Stag... No, sorry, that's a Range Rover steering column. Over here is the rebuilt Stag steering column. Fully rebuilt, look at that. Set of doors there for... That's the passenger door I picked up for a bargain price. Fully fitted out and everything. That's not bad, that one. I'm quite pleased with that. But that's it as far as the transmission tunnel cover is concerned. And also my plans for an LT77 going on to a Rover V8 into Bob. Now, the other thing with the gearbox that I'm getting from Tim is that it's come from a low mileage. It has come from a VM. I need to double check that the gear ratios are the same with the VM as they are with the V8. Probably won't make a huge amount of difference because I'd imagine fifth gear is going to be the same ratio. But just double check that. I have got another LT77 gearbox down in Devon, but I don't know, that one's certainly got the was it L230R transfer box with this wanky mechanism to select the diff lock, which just seizes up over the year, and then when you actually need it in the winter, it never bloody works. You've got to service your linkages, guys. You've got to service your linkages. So that's been in the planning. I've had a number of email exchanges with Ashcroft Transmissions. It's been really useful, pointing me in the direction of this. Really useful. So big shout out to those guys. I mean, they are bloody brilliant anyway, but if I can get a low mileage gearbox that doesn't need refurbing, then I'm obviously with a, I'm not going to say a challenge budget, but with a fixed budget around getting Bob sorted out, which is tight. You know, things like that and low mileage gearboxes, they're all going to help. Other bits and bobs, really bobs. Other bits and bobs. That's been it for transmission and engine. As far as interior is concerned, my dad with Diana. What's that bright thing? It's hurting my eyes. We've got a heavy snow forecast tomorrow. Would you believe it? Heavy snow forecast. Ridiculous. This torch has gone flat. I'm just going to plug it in. Oh, there's one plugged in already. It's charging still. I'll plug that one in a minute. Yeah, heavy snow forecast for tomorrow. what I was saying about my dad's car. So if you look at one of the Diana vids that I've done, my dad's got, I think it's early 1980s, early mid 1980s, two-door teddy bear cloth with headrests all round, headrests and armrests all round. Now, my dad actually really liked the Kit Kat seats that I put into Alan, the 1972 project that I lost my shirt on. He's actually, well, we're 9/10 of the way down the route now. We're going to buy the kit because I'm just going to retrim them myself. We're 9/10 of the way down, just kind of raising the funds, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And I thought, well, rather than trash the kind of the seats and the frames, blah-de-blah, sell the seats and the frames complete, so a pair of seats and the rear seat from my dad's car to the guy that's, you know, the customer who's buying Bob, who's got the vest, or has bought Bob, I should say. And that, again, we can trim an entire interior for the cost of those seats. Obviously, we need the side cappings and so forth, but I know what those costs are. As far as the interior is concerned, the customer wants as much sound deadening as we can get in there. I have got a complete sound deadening mat that goes right the way across the front. It's even got the Land Rover branding and stuff in it. It's not the best underneath it, over the top of the transmission tunnel cover, but it's good. So I've got that complete. I've also got a rear transmission, sorry, soundproofing, so it cuts a lot of the noise out the back. As far as drumming, once this is all stripped, painted, I'll stick the Dynamat sheets, big squares, boom, all over the bloody place, like it has been on the roof. You see on the roof, you've got big anti-drum pads up here. Stop the drumming. Roof. I know there's a lot of crap on it at the moment, but when I say crap, I know that Haggis's carpets and bonnet are on the roof at the moment. That wasn't very diplomatic, Richard. So once we've got the sound deadening down in here, and it's all watertight, because what I'm inclined to do is to really fix the sills to the bulkhead. The transmission tunnel cover, I'm inclined still to use the captive screws and nuts to bolt it down, but I really want to try and cut down, because I know that there's a bloody great big water trap that goes in around here at the bottom of the at the bottom of the footwell. So really just trying to get away from that point. We don't want water being driven in here. I did try and see if that would go underneath the footwell, underneath the edge of the sill, but it won't, not easily anyway, not without distorting things. I've got a complete dash to go in, which you've seen in the previous video. So again, it's more or less, you know, just straight in. The loom I took out of Bob when it came out appeared to be serviceable. Now, I wasn't able to test much on it because there was no battery at the time, and kind of I was just tearing it apart for shits and giggles. But I took the loom out intact. Now, I'll go over the loom and make sure that it is in good order. The worst case scenario for that will be that I go through and I just replace every single earth wire in the loom. And that seems to be the thing that generally causes most issues in an old Lucas loom, is the earth wires. When you strip back any of the wires, every wire comes back, beautiful copper underneath it, except for the black earth wires. Strip those back and the wire's all burnt. It's overloaded. So I shall aim to do that. That won't take me too long. But the challenge is to get this really ready for paint end of February, beginning of March. Now, do you think that's a tall order? Is it a challenge I'm prepared to accept? Hell yes. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks though, coming up, which is why I need to get these two out of the way. But as I say, there's been an awful lot of paddling under the surface, really, to get this thing into a state where, you know, I can actually, you know, just move forwards with it and just get the car done. This bike has some challenges. So this corner is okay. This corner has a rusty hole through it. Now, that is not the end of the world, but it's going to be a bit of a challenge making up that panel there to go on. It's got a big lip underneath it. I do have a better bonnet. I will go through the 3 bonnets I've got to choose from and choose the best one. And again, it will be prepped and painted. I'm not convinced yet that it will be blasted back to bare metal. These things, bear in mind the complex structure of this thing. This is a single pressing. One single pressing. Underneath probably a 500-ton press out of a single sheet of steel. Okay, that outer skin. So you can imagine, I mean there's a dent there on that one, just a little bit. I suspect someone's probably stood on it. You can see the dent in there. This is the kind of the worst bonnet I have, but it was the top one on the pile, so I lobbed it onto the car to bring it up. But the back end of it is all right here, you see. But single pressing, and you can imagine the amount of filler that goes into this. I mean, when I look at the inside of it, look at the inside, you can sometimes see imperfections in the metal. There's one big one there. And that, I'm fairly sure, would have just been, when the panel was pressed, they drag it off, they do whatever they need to do with it. And bear in mind, it's a Land Rover, not a Jaguar. It's really kind of a Land Rover series on steroids, so nowhere near kind of what Range Rovers have become now, although it's still a great brand, etc., etc., etc. I think there will be some filler in here, so I'm reluctant to take all of the paint off the outside of it for exactly that reason. Might take the paint off the inside, but I could do that with a flat wheel. Probably not this one. It's not bad, this bonnet on the inside edges. I've seen worse. This piece on the front here is a bit that often rots out on the later cars. So even if I did scrap this bonnet, which is extremely unlikely, always save these front bits. They're only pop riveted in. Save them. That chunk there. Because on the later bonnets, they're spot welded in. So on this one, it'll be spot welded in. And they rust for some reason. I think maybe that might be alloy. Let's do the old I'm going to find out test. It is. That's why they don't rust, because they are alloy. Probably find these ribs here are alloy. Back section steel. Bonnet is obviously steel. If the bonnet was alloy, I'd be selling it for £1 million. This rib here is steel, but the big box section is alloy, as is the front section. So you ever have a bonnet where it's absolutely rotted out, it's gone down the side down here, and I've seen them like that, they just, all this edge just disappears. Salvage that bit, salvage these bits, scrap the rest. Because those bits you can use on any bonnet, especially the later bonnets, like the concealed hinge bonnets, where this piece does rot out, and people scrap bonnets because this is rotted out. But there's no reason why you couldn't retrofit this alloy part into a later concealed hole bonnet. So that's pretty much about it. Oh, the other thing I have been doing, I've secured because this is an original 3-bolt steering box that came off the car, oddly enough. For the sake of spend, and the customer's not really bothered about the detail and so forth, and I'm inclined to agree after the fiasco I went through with Alan as a project trying to get everything period correct, and 99% of the customers really couldn't give a toss. I'm going to put a 4-bolt power steering box in there. It's a complete straight retrofit. When the engine goes in, it will have all of the associated metric pipe work to go with the 4-bolt hole box. I can put the metal can rather than the plastic canister in there, so I've got a metal can I can put in there to give it a bit of a retro feel to the top of the engine. But other than that, it will have modern pipework, it will have modern steering box, cheaper to service, cheaper to maintain. This is what we're wanting here. We're not wanting something that is going to be absolute period correct as it left the factory in 1971, but an easily reversible change. That box, you see, will almost certainly need some sort of refurb. I mean, bearing in mind how much of the rest of the car, the engine was full of salty seawater, the chances are that's going to need a refurb. I will tear one apart one day. That's the heel board out the back of the car. I just strapped it in there for transport. Trying to think what else really that I've been doing with planning on this car. As I say, it's 99% of it's been bloody logistics. Just really understanding. And all of my kind of logistics planning at my time is never billable. All of that stuff is what I should be doing anyway. But that's probably taken up what time I've not been doing on these two, the lion's share of this week. It comes to brakes and so forth, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to go with brakes yet. So what it might end up with is a later servo with the metric fittings on the servo. So, if you don't know, the original Imperial slave cylinder, master cylinder, sorry, you're pointing at a master, Richard, you're pointing at a master, had vertical mounting bolts onto the servo. So the servo and the Imperial fixing master cylinder, vertical. This one is much, much later, but on the slightly later ones, where they went metric, they were horizontal. And I think even the service manual does state that if you have to buy, it's kind of in the mid-70s, if you have to replace the master cylinder, you have to replace the servo at the same time. Because obviously the servo, the early servo and the early master are kind of there as a unit. And because those things are a bastard to get hold of and refurbish, a jury's out as to whether I go for a later master and servo. If I can get hold of an early servo and I can get the master cylinder refurbished, because again, I'd rather get an original AP Lockheed master refurbished than put a Koki 5000 in there, for the purpose of security and safety and so forth, then so be it. I've got a big box full of calipers, metric and Imperial, that I will send off a set to Big Red, and they'll be AP Lockheed. I'll get the best ones I've got, they'll go off to AP Lockheed, and they'll be refurbished for the corners. Axles are already done, discs are already done. I've got a set of springs to put on it. New old stock for the back. It might have been used for about 10 miles, but that's it. A brand spanking new on the front, which they've come from the providers of blue boxes of joy and wonderment. Now, if they're not good, then obviously I'll send them straight back, and I will fit springs from Famous 4. Famous 4 seem to have a different supply chain. Of course, I could go out and find the manufacturers, and I could, or go to any of the spring manufacturers around the East and West Midlands, and get them to make springs for me. But that's not what you guys would be doing, is it? Because you guys would just be saying, right, I want to go and buy some stuff. You're not trade, so therefore you're going to be, and this is kind of the way I run this channel, is I run it as if you are doing this shit in your garage. All the body mounts have been replaced. I've done all that. I'm trying to think what else. I've got a set of wheels to go on it. They'll be the early style wheels. Oh yeah, one interesting thing. When you're putting tube-less tyres with tubes onto rims, the riveted rims that need tubed tyres, I've been warned by a tyre centre, yes, you can do it. There's no real reason why you can't do it. However, because the inside face of a tubeless tyre is not finished to accept a tube, they do wear through the tubes. So what they recommend is that you replace the tubes every couple of years. Seems like a faff, but you know, the tubes are what, 15, 20 quid a corner. And it's really, because you see the tyre flexes at the bottom on this. I know this one's probably a little bit on the low side, but as you're driving, the tyre is flexing and the tube's moving backwards and forwards on the inside edge of the tyre. So yeah, and that was a safety thing. Do a bit of research on that, folks, just to be absolutely sure, because I have said in the past, my dad certainly got a set of Goodyear Wranglers on his car, Diana, with tubes inside them. I will be monitoring that situation and let you know where we are with it. Right, okay. I think that's about it for now, really. I'm due to talk to the customer later today. It's last Friday in January. We're actually giving the months names this year, even though it's a bloody another COVID lockdown, rather than just being month and days just being day. No, we decided to call this month January for some reason. I'm not quite sure I know why. I'm looking forward to being able to go to the pub again, though. I'll tell you that for nothing. That's a bizarre thing, isn't it, to say? Right, onwards and upwards. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's informative about the planning that goes on behind a project of this sort of scale. I mean, I've got a huge spreadsheet with every single part mapped out on that and approximate times I need to complete each of these tasks. And I'm tracking myself against it as well, because, you know, it's my business to do that. And really trying to reuse parts where I possibly can, rather than just replace with brand spanking new, is another kind of, you know, good approach. So for instance, I bought some used old stock rear wings from a trader in the Netherlands. It's no longer sending it to the UK because of the EU VAT rules that they brought in. Thank you very much, EU, for that. Hopefully you'll get those issues sorted out and be sending stuff over again, because they're really nice front wings. Sorry, back wings. I'm really pleased with them. Front wings, I've got a big pile of them, but finding a pair that's going to be good, I'm not entirely sure I know. The problem is that the reproduction ones that come in from Jaguar Land Rover, they're not a great fit. I'm going to need a new door skin for this fella, but I think the idea is to protect the door skin and salvage the one on the other side. I think that's about it. I'm rabbiting far too long. I've taken far too much of your time really just going over basic logistics on, you know, a large nut and bolt project, and really kind of where you need to be with it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's worthwhile. There'll be a lot more Bob